Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10 and support the channel at the same time. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. Alright, three big headlines to talk about this week. First off, Commander 2017. A lot of people scrambling for upgrades. You're going to see a big influence on the market this week. Second big headline is the Ixalan rules change. We'll talk more about that in a few moments. And then finally, buyouts. Buyouts are still a big thing going on, especially with reserve list cards. We're going to see that more towards the end of the video. Now, quickly before we get started, if you check out the description below, you'll find a few ways to support us, one of which is our Amazon affiliate store links. Any purchases you buy via any of those links, once you get to Amazon, a small percentage will come back to help us. You'll also find our Patreon page below. That's a great way to help us out. And then finally, Flipside Gaming, they're linked below, and they provided a promo code for our viewers, which is actually pretty awesome. So, with that being said, we have a ton to talk about, so let's get into the cards. We're going to start off, as we always do, with Standard and the 5 cards that have lost value this week. Coming in at number 5, Nahiri the Harbinger, down 61 cents to 10.58. Now, like most of the cards on today's list that are going down, this is a card that's close to rotating out. And this one's a little bit awkward. She was seeing a lot of play in Modern. She was even seeing some Legacy play a while back. That has tapered off quite a bit. Not to say she's completely out of those formats, but it's tapered off a lot. So with her leaving the Standard format and having a limited role in these other formats, she's going to continue to decline. I think she will be a good pickup. Maybe not this week, but wait a couple weeks when we get closer to rotation. I think you might be able to find her between like $5 and $8. And at that point, that's a good pickup. Number 4, Grim Flayer, down 61 cents to 10.95. Another card that had its day in Standard, but times are changing, and this card's rotating out. Now, I will say this about Grim Flayer. It is an Eldritch Moon card. Eldritch Moon cards had a lower print run than the other sets that are leaving rotation with rotation, so this one maybe has better prospects for the future than some of the others, and it does see play in the Abzan deck quite extensively in Modern. Number 3, Relentless Dead, down 74 cents to 9.34. Still a big role player in Standard, of course, in that Mono Black Zombies deck, but of course, this is also leaving the format soon enough. So players who are thinking about the next meta are starting to liquidate this card to get money for some of these new cards coming in. So you're going to find cards that have higher price points like this one, dropping a little bit faster than maybe some of the others. Number 2, Torrential Gearhulk, down 76 cents to 18.84. This is a great card. It's going to continue to be a great card. This one is not rotating out, of course, being from Kaladesh. But the problem is Abraid's in the format right now, and Abraid is super harsh on this card. And those red decks can be very dominant over control decks that are trying to run Torrential Gearhulks as their win condition right now. So that's kind of turned some of these control decks to find some other win conditions. And even though it's a great card, it's going to have some trouble, I think, going forward as long as Abraid's in the format with it. Coming in number 1, Hezret the Fervent, down 97 cents to 14.62. Well, this was the darling of the Pro Tour a few weeks ago, and then after that hype spike, it has been steadily declining, which is really no surprise. I do think the card would have fallen a little faster, but Ramanap Red is holding on. It's still a really good deck in Standard, and I think a lot of people are speculating that it's going to be a strong deck, at least in the beginning of the next meta, so you're not going to find a lot of players trying to liquidate copies of this. So this will continue to decline a little bit because it is a Amonkhet card. A lot of packs have been open. There's many copies out there. But at the same time, it's not going to just crash. It's going to probably steadily slide like you're seeing here. All right, let's look at the top 5 cards that have gained value this week in Standard. Coming in at number 5, Chandra, Torch of Defiance, up 31 cents to 34.95, and she is all over the place in Standard. All your big decks are playing this card, and for good reason. She's an awesome card. I do think 34.95 is still a high price point, though, for this card, so be careful when it comes to this one. There's a lot of copies out here. It's going to be hard for this to sustain that price point, even if it is seeing a lot of play. So just be careful. Don't overpay for this one unless you really need to pick it up, like right now for a tournament this weekend or something. Coming in number 4, Metallic Mimic, up 33 cents to 7.30. And yes, this still sees a little bit of standard play, of course. It's in those zombies decks. But the reason this is going up this week is more so because of the Commander 2017 decks. This is a great upgrade for really any of the 4. Also worth noting, too, if you want to speculate for a card that could be good in the new standard, this would definitely be the one, considering Ixalan is a tribal-based set. Coming in number 3, Gideon Marshall Paragon, up 35 cents to $4.92. I do want to point out, this is the Planeswalker deck Gideon for the Amonkhet Gideon Planeswalker deck, so you cannot find this in regular Amonkhet packs. So why is this going up this week? Well, the news broke officially from Wizards that Planeswalkers, retroactively, once Ixalan drops, will be known as Legendary Planeswalkers. The Legendary rule will apply to them, but the Planeswalker uniqueness rule is going away. So what does that mean? Well, it means you can actually have 2 different versions of a Planeswalker on your side at the same time. You can't have 2, say, Gideon Marshall Paragons in play. You would have to sacrifice one just like you would today. But you could have this, and maybe Gideon Ally of Zendikar could both be in play on your side, and that would be just fine. And that's a pretty big rules change. It's got a lot of people thinking about maybe brewing Gideon Tribal once that rule goes into effect. So because of that, this card is seeing a little bit of an increase this week as people are starting to think about, could this perhaps be a thing in Standard in the new meta? I guess we'll have to wait and see where that goes and what brewers can do with it, but it's at least on the radar right now. Coming in number 2, Liliana the Last Hope, up $1.44 to $29.99. Still a key part, of course, in a lot of Zombies decks in Standard right now. But maybe more importantly, this card is seeing a fair amount of Modern play currently. She's showing up in a few different major decks over there. So because of that, she's going to do a pretty good job at holding her price point, even though she's rotating out of Standard. Now, another thing to point out, again, she's from Eldritch Moon. Eldritch Moon is going to do a better job at keeping its value than the other sets that are going to be leaving shortly. So, combine those things, Liliana actually will probably decrease a little bit as we get closer to rotation, but I really can't see her going much below $25, quite honestly. I think she's going to maintain her value relatively well. And coming in number 1, Gideon of the Trials, up $6.50 this week to $16.90. Remember when this card came out, it was a huge card, super overhyped during the pre-release time, and since then it's dropped quite a bit. But now, with that rules change, it's opened up possibilities again, and people are thinking about brewing with this card, and you can see that reflected in the price. Alright, let's move on to Modern, beginning with the cards that lost value this week. Coming in number 5, Arcbound Ravager from Modern Masters, down $1.39 to $39.99. Don't panic about this card. It's still an awesome card. Affinity's still a great deck. That's not going to change. Part of the reason this is going down a little bit, though, I think is due to the banning we saw in Vintage. It is supposed to bring the power level of Shops decks down a little bit. Maybe some folks are panicking slightly on that front. But again, I don't think the Shops deck is going to become unplayable or anything like that either. So I think this is just a reaction to that. Number 4, Mox Opal. This is the Modern Masters 2015 version, down $1.41 to $60.89. Again, another piece of the Infinity deck, which is kind of interesting, but it also sees play in other decks in Modern. This doesn't really see play in the Shops decks, though. I mean, Shops decks don't usually need this. They just play the real Moxes and such, but I'm sure there's some variants that run it. Although, I think the reason this is going down is just more stabilization due to the fact this card spiked pretty heavily about 2 months ago or so. Number 3, Prismatic Omen, down $2.22 to $27.95. This card spiked about a week ago, so it's stabilizing down a little bit. It had a good finish at one of the Star City Games events not too long ago, and also it's a great upgrade card for the Dragon Commander 2017 deck. Coming in number 2, Horizon Canopy, down $3.09 to $90.87. This is a card that has had a lot of attention on it this summer. The Dubious Breach deck kind of helped with people paying attention to this card. Also, it didn't hurt that Company kind of made a little bit of a surge with that new deck list we saw a few weeks back that did well. So a lot of people have been trying to pick up Horizon Canopy this summer, and now, as you can imagine, it's just stabilizing a little bit. And number 1, this Tarmogoyf keeps dropping, I tell you. 2 versions here. Modern Masters 2017 down $2.08 to $76.24, and Future Sight 334 to $121.53. So first off, Tarmogoyf still a great card, but yeah, percentage-wise it's down, especially in Modern, as to how many copies people are playing. So as to be expected, values are going down. Future Sight values even starting to take a little bit of a hit, and that one has almost felt untouchable in the past. Modern Masters 2017, I think that's a great pickup. The quality of that particular set was a lot better than the Modern Masters 2015, so especially if you're buying online, you're not taking as big of a risk to get a card that maybe has some print flaws. And $76.24, not a bad price point, although I do imagine this will continue to drop a little more. All right, let's look at the modern cards that have gained value this week. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're looking for cards that you'll find in modern staples like Grixis Death Shadow or something like that, well, you've come to the wrong place, because the modern and legal cards that are popular right now are cards that have to do with this rules change or the Commander 2017 upgrades. Or, in this case, coming in at number 5, Wanderwine Prophets, up 539 to 1093. And this is a card that was featured by the professor at Tolarian Community College about a week ago in a video, and people liked it, and it went up. Number 4, Nakata War Pride. This is an uncommon from Future Sight, up 548 to 595. Pretty nice spike this week. Great upgrade for the Cat deck. Number 3, Mirror Gallery, up 566 to 2280. And I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but of course this is due to the change in the Planeswalker rule that's coming up. So this is a good example of how leaks can affect the secondary market, because this card actually started to spike and did the majority of its spiking back when the Ixalan leaks happened a couple months ago. And players who maybe didn't know about those leaks because they're more casual, or maybe didn't want to see those leaks because they didn't want everything spoiled for them too early, they kind of missed out on an opportunity to get this card cheap. And now, of course, the news is official and it's out there and it's going up even more in value. So kind of a interesting look at what leaks can actually do and what kind of impact they can have on the secondary market. And if you don't act fast, sometimes you lose out. I think this is a good example, or a bad example, I guess, for that. Number 2, Sarkhan Unbroken, up 855 to 1384. Just a fantastic upgrade for the Dragon Commander 2017 deck. A lot of people picking this one up now. Number 1, Untai Daisuke, the Cloud Keeper. That's as good as it's getting. I'm sorry. Up 901 to 946. And you guessed it again. This is a card that's going to interact with the Legendary rule. All right, top 5 Legacy cards that have lost value this week. Well, let's talk about some buyouts now that we're into Legacy. Buyouts are still running rampant, but we're going to see on this list are the cards that were bought out a week or two ago, and they're already getting introduced back into the market. Important to point out, though, after the buyout is over and the cards are completely reintroduced to the market, the price point is not going to go back down to where it was. It's just not how it works. Unfortunately, buyouts also draw a lot of attention to the card and cause a little bit of a panic. And when people do find them at what they consider a reasonable price, they go ahead and pick them up, and the price points will never go back down, especially for these reserve list cards. But let's see what's going on. Coming in number 5, Volcanic Island, down 2551 to 471.48. This is the unlimited version. This is just normal stabilization. Number 4, Sword of the Ages, down 38.40 to 175. Okay, this was the target of a buyout a week ago, and it's already on the decline as the copies are most likely already being reintroduced to the market. Number 3, Transmute Artifact, down 54.28 to 175. This was number 1 on our list last week and had a huge increase, and again, already falling. Number 2, Old Man of the Sea. This was bought out a couple weeks ago, down $78 to $215. And finally, another buyout, Elephant Graveyard, down $92.96 to $169. Alright, so what's gaining value this week? Well, if you guessed buyouts, you are correct. So coming in at number 5, Tanos' Coffin, up 37.07 to 87.50. And this is from Antiquities. This is actually a pretty decent card. Like, it's a nice way to protect your stuff, maybe in Commander or something like that. But really, again, this is a pretty big increase in 1 week for this card just generally. So feels like some market manipulation. Number 4, All Hallows Eve, up 71.67 this week to 178.54. I do want to point out, about 48 hours ago or so, this card saw a nice little dip. There must have been some cheaper versions of it out there on the secondary market. It was actually going for between $70 and $75, but within the last 48 hours, it actually climbed over $100. Now, when I saw the lower price point, I said to myself, somebody is going to notice this, and yeah, somebody did notice it, and tried to pick up at least those cheaper versions of the card, and then maybe even more so. Number 3, Bartel Rune Axe from Legends, up 87.68 to 99.23, and say it with me now, yep, it's a buyout. Number 2, Nether Void, up 113.62 to 474.95. All right, all together now, it's a buyout. And finally, number 1, Diamond Valley, up 154.03 to 348.97. This card usually sits around the $150 to $200 mark, but you guessed it, it's a buyout. All right, let's look at some other notable cards. I wanted to pick out a handful of the Commander 2017 upgrades that are still moving up. I also wanted to pick up at least a couple more of these Legend Rules cards and some more buyouts to point out to you, just so you are aware of all this stuff going on right now. First off, Bramaz, King of Oreskos, up 74 cents to 15.47. Great upgrade for the Cat Commander deck, of course. This had a bigger spike last week, but it's maintaining its value very well. Next is Karthus, Tyrant of Jund, up $1.63 to 17.01. Fantastic upgrade for the Dragon deck, especially if you're playing with other Dragon decks in your play group. I'm a little surprised this isn't going up faster, but I think the reason for that is because there's a real good chance this shows up in Iconic Masters. I feel like it most likely will, quite honestly, probably as a Mythic. So until HasCon this next weekend, I think people are going to be a little hesitant to buy into this card. They're going to want to wait and see if someone opens this up in a pack next weekend. Sigil Tracer, up 264 to 889. Great card for an upgrade to the Wizard deck, and again, this one's been on our list for a couple weeks. Sundial of the Infinite, up 322 to 495. Another good upgrade for the Wizard deck. Bloodline Keeper, this is a fantastic upgrade for the Vampire deck, up $331 to $16. Alright, next we'll look at a couple cards affected by the rules change. This is Riki, the History of Kamigawa, of $539 to $10.93, again due to its interaction with legendary spells. Captain Sisay, up $9.67 to $37.95. Another card that really started spiking when the leak occurred and just continued to go up now that everything is official, but this is a fantastic pickup. I hope to see a reprint of this card. I don't know if we will see it in Iconic Masters. I mean, maybe, but I feel like it has a potential decent chance to get into Masters 25. I guess we'll wait and see. All right, let's talk about some more buyouts with Field of Dreams, up 1860 this week to 65.90. This is one of the Enchant World cards from Legends. Next is Battle of Suleiman, up 23.19 to 37.48. I do want to point out this is not a reserve list card, so one of the few cards that appears to be a buyout that is not on the reserve list. This actually has been reprinted. You can find cheaper versions of it. But again, because it's an Arabian Nights card, for the most part, a lot of people don't care. They're just buying into all these cards, whether they're reserve list or not. But this particular one, again, this is a pretty nice spike for 1 week. Feels like market manipulation. Life Matrix, up 27.55 to 37.95. Again, at this point, I think people are just trying to identify reserve list cards that haven't really been touched that much, and they're just going for them. And finally, Tugnear Deathlock, up 31.44 to 37.50 this week. All right, so that's the week in the market. Now, I talked a lot in last week's video about buyouts, how they work, how they function, the potential dangers of them. So if you're interested in hearing more, you may want to check out last week's video for all of that. But for today, I'll wrap things up. Hey, until next time, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.